Chapter 30. A Trundle Tornado. The hunter sprang out of the living room in a flash, leaving only a thick cloud of smoke from his pipe. Growler wasted no time hanging around either, and followed him straight out of the door. The hunt was on. Their prey was close. "We've got him this time, Growler," William heard the hunter cry as his voice disappeared out through the front door and into the street. The Christmasaurus was in danger. William had to get free from the net and help him, but he felt more trapped than he'd ever felt in all his life. He was strapped into a wheelchair, caught in a net, hanging from the ceiling fan. It was hopeless. But then William saw something dangling in front of his face. Something hanging from the ceiling like a lifeline, the pull cord to switch the ceiling fan on. Suddenly, William had an idea. There was no time to think it through. He had to get out into the street to help the Christmasaurus, and with his dad and Santa tied up, it was all down to him. He reached up and gave a hard tug on the cord. A weary, buzzing sort of sound instantly filled the Trundle's living room as the blades of the ceiling fan started to spin. There was an ear-bursting screech from above as the fan struggled to turn with the weight of William and his chair hanging beneath it, so he pulled on the cord a few more times, selecting the highest, fastest, most powerful fan speed. "William," cried Mr. Trundle, "what are you doing? The fan will chop you to pieces." "Don't worry, Dad," yelled William as he was starting to spin round and round in the middle of the room. His escape plan was working. I'm going to show you this picture before I read. I think this is why the chapter is called Trundle Tornado. The ceiling fan started to gain momentum, picking up a tremendous amount of speed. As it got faster and faster, William started to feel the G-forces smushing and squishing his face in all sorts of ways it hadn't been smushed or squished in before. "Hold on, son," called Mr. Trundle, worriedly watching helplessly from the corner as William flew in great circles around the living room. William was now whizzing round so fast that to everyone watching he just looked like a blurry smush whooshing round and round and round, like some sort of indoor Trundle tornado. Suddenly there was a noise, a horrid, awful, tearing, ripping noise. "William, the rope!" cried Santa, who had managed to spit his beard out of his mouth. The rope holding the net to the ceiling was slowly being sliced by the blades of the fan. With each spin, the rope was getting thinner and thinner. It wouldn't hold much longer. "It's okay," called William from somewhere within the spinning blur as he tried desperately not to throw up. "This is the plan! Ah! Slice!" The blade sliced through the final threads of rope as if they didn't even exist, and William found himself flying for the third time that night. He flew through the air, across the living room, over Santa's head, straight towards the window. Smash! He crashed through the glass, landing with a great clatter in the snowy front garden underneath the heavy rope of the hunter's net. Peering through the rope, he caught sight of the hunter and Growler stalking up the street in the direction from which the roar had come. William tried to wriggle free from the ropes, but he was stuck. The ropes weren't just twisted and tangled, they were twangled right around the wheels of his chair. It would take hours to untwangle it all, and the more he wriggled, the more twangled the rope seemed to get. Suddenly, William felt a rather odd sensation that everything was growing bigger. Or was he getting smaller? It was the same feeling he'd had on the rooftop just before falling down the chimney. Santa was using his magic. The ropes around William were now double the size. No, triple. Actually, they were 10 times the size that they were, and so were the holes in the net, just big enough for William to wheel himself through. He quickly lifted one of the now huge, heavy ropes off his lap and over his head. He was free. He wheeled himself out of the enormous net and saw a very small Santa dramatically somersaulting through the now enormous broken window. An even smaller looking Mr. Trundle was running out of the even more enormous front door and of their even more humongous wonky house. "William," the tiny shrunken Mr. Trundle called to his tiny shrunken son. "Dad," William cried as the massive world around them shrank, or perhaps they all grew. Either way, everything was back to normal size in no more than 3 seconds. William hugged his dad tighter than he'd ever hugged him before. He was so happy that he was safe and he still had his head. "We've got to save the Christmasaurus," Santa said urgently as another tremendous roar broke through the calm Christmas morning air. The sun was still low in the sky, coating the white snow-quilted street in a fiery red glow. Santa, William, and Mr. Trundle hid behind the wonky hedge of the small front garden. They peered over the top and saw the hunter creeping down the middle of the snowy road, his deadly sniper rifle raised in his arms and his beady black eye stuck onto the telescopic sight. Growler was at his side, sniffing the fresh morning air, trying to pick up the scent of the Christmasaurus. Suddenly, he let out a bark. He'd spotted something. The hunter had spotted it too. Right at the far end of the street, way off in the distance, was the unmistakable silhouette of a dinosaur. "Look, it's the Christmasaurus," whispered William worriedly. He must have followed the sleigh. That silly Dippy twazzle no-brain dinosaur. I told him to stay in the North Pole, Santa cursed. The sun was rising behind the Christmasaurus, casting a long, dark, dinosaur-shaped shadow on the snow. A mighty roar came rolling down the street. The Christmasaurus was there all right. Show this so they can just about see the Christmasaurus, but just his shadow because of the sun behind him. I need to put an end to all of this once and for all, said Mr. Trundle, as he unexpectedly stood up and straightened his Christmas jumper. What are you doing, Dad? William said, completely confused. Stay here, Willy-Poos. And with those words, Mr. Trundle marched fearlessly out into the street towards the hunter. Dad, stop! He'll shoot you, cried William. No, he won't, said Mr. Trundle, as he turned and looked William in the eye. He's my brother.